When you run a game of basically any tabletop RPG ever, there are times when your players are neither fighting dungeons nor exploring dragons. And yet, this peaceful time that the players and their characters spend in town between adventures, that's when they can get to know and eventually grow to love this world that they're supposed to save. It isn't where the adventure is, but it is where much of the heart of their story is. So how do we create towns and villages that our players will remember for the next 10 years? Let's talk about that for the next 10 minutes. The first thing your fantasy town is going to need is probably a good map, which is exactly why I asked Incarnate if they would like to sponsor this video. Incarnate is the online map making tool you've seen me use in pretty much every single one of my supplements. It's very easy to use, and with it you can create anything from world maps and city maps all the way down to dungeon maps and battle maps. I've been using the pro version in my home games pretty much ever since I started GMing, and it has allowed me, a talentless hack, to make beautiful city maps like this one or that one. They have over 20,000 assets, which really helps with creativity and world building, because every couple minutes you stumble upon a cool asset and you have a sudden realization like, yes, actually, my city does in fact need a giant interdimensional gate, thank you very much. It also has a really useful explore page where the mapper community posts hundreds of maps every month for you to clone and edit. One time I took this map by Nemrod, changed the background to an icy landscape, and if you don't tell my players, they'll never know I didn't come up with it myself. Now, you can use Incarnate for free, but you get so much out of Incarnate Pro, especially for just $25 a year, that in my experience at least, it's worth every penny. If you want to check it out for yourself, you can use the promo code CRITICALI to get access to Incarnate Pro for 7 days for free. And right now is the coolest time to try it out because you'll get to take part in the open beta for Incarnate 2.0, which is available to all pro users. It introduces a bunch of new features to make creating maps even easier, and a new sci-fi battle map style, which is really good timing since, as you might know, I started working on a sci-fi RPG just a couple months back. In fact, if you catch my next stream this Saturday at 3 PM CET, I'll be using Incarnate to make a bunch of sci-fi battle maps for my game. So come hang out and chat about level design and map making tricks with a certified Incarnate nerd. So now you have a great looking map. Let's talk about what to put in that map. Throughout the years, D&D has had a lot of starting towns, so let's go through a couple of them, see how they present their information, what they do right, what they do wrong, and what we can learn from them. Hommlet was a lot of people's first RPG village, and it set the standard for what a D&D town should look like for decades to come. It was published in 1979, and besides featuring the wizard with the sharpest jawline in the entire multiverse, Hommlet was basically designed to be the most generic medieval fantasy village possible. A lot of descriptions for the locations in the village include some variation of "there is nothing of interest to adventurers here," but you still get an exhaustive list of every potter, leather worker, farmer, and the number of children they have. It's not that Hommlet doesn't have a story to tell. There's a moat house just outside of town, and the player characters will, maybe, clear the bandits who've taken it over. But just in case the players want to do literally anything other than this riveting adventure, the book tries to be prepared for their shenanigans by making sure you, the GM, know where each and every single villager hides their life savings of 9 gold pieces. It's medieval fantasy with a strong emphasis on medieval over fantasy. This is not necessarily bad, mind you. Using Tolkien's blueprints about what that sort of village should look like makes it immediately familiar and understandable. Hommlet is not very original, but it's not designed to be. So let's fast forward 3.5 decades. The year is 2014. Wizard of the Coast just published Phandalin, the latest in a long series of generic medieval fantasy villages. Let's see how things have evolved. There's a couple big improvements here. First, we only have information about the important NPCs in the village. For everyone else, the book simply tells you to default to a commoner stat block if and when your players inevitably start burning an orphanage or 3. Second, the book spends much more effort actually drawing the players towards those important NPCs. The player characters arrive in Phandalin late at night, and the NPC they just saved, Old Man Sildar, tells them they should spend the night at the inn. The players can choose to do 1 or 2 things before they head there, but then every store closes for the night, and the only thing left to do is pretty much to follow Sildar's advice. Even if Sildar isn't there, or the party decides not to listen to his advice, the cards are stacked in the inn's favor due to its location. The party reaches Phandalin from the north, and the first 2 buildings they see are the town's general store, so they can trade loot, and then the inn. Once they get to the inn, the DM is told to have the patrons of the inn share rumors about every single one of Phandalin's important NPCs, and each of these NPCs is related to one side quest. So here we see a pretty fundamental evolution of the role the town fulfills within the game. It's still a very mundane village, and again, that's on purpose, and it's completely fine. But now, instead of pursuing realism as a goal, Phandalin treats realism as just one tool among many, which helps it fulfill its actual goal, which is pointing players in the direction of where adventures can be had. So what's the next step? We've gone from Hommlet to Phandalin, but what is the next evolution of the RPG town going to look like? Well, here's another thing that happened between Hommlet and Phandalin. Video games have become a thing. So today, we pencil pushers of the tabletop RPG world don't really have a monopoly on RPG towns anymore. And because of how much more popular video games are, computer RPGs have had to iterate and innovate at a much faster pace than tabletop RPGs. So if you want a sneak peek of what tabletop RPG towns might look like in the next 15 years, a good way to do that is to look at how computer RPG towns have evolved over the past 15 years. This is Whiterun from Skyrim. It is one of the most generic looking fantasy villages of all time. There's an outer wall, wooden houses, a castle at the top of a hill. I have seen medieval villages in real life that had more personality than Whiterun. And yet, if you ask people who've played Skyrim what their favorite city is, the results look like this. Whiterun is by far the most popular city in Skyrim. It easily beats towns with a much more unique aesthetic like Markarth, Solitude or Winterhold. So why is that? If our goal as game masters is to make cities our players will care about, what is that magic sauce that allows Whiterun to dominate the mental real estate of Skyrim players despite being a generic fantasy village? Well, let's see what a typical player's experience looks like when discovering Whiterun for their first playthrough. First, you get an encounter just outside the city gates, where the companions are fighting a giant. If you help them, they'll congratulate you for being brave like them and ask if you'd like to join their ranks. So you get one of the biggest side quests literally right at the gate. Once inside the gates, you see an Imperial soldier talking with a blacksmith and requesting more weapons for the war effort. The blacksmith retorts that she's already busy and that the soldier should ask a second blacksmith for help. This is mostly just exposition, but just in a few short sentences, you've learned that Whiterun has two blacksmiths and that in the Civil War plotline, it is siding with the Empire rather than the rebels. Then you climb the stairs to discover the Holy Gildergreen tree, and next to it, you hear Amren and his wife talk about the family's heirloom sword which was recently stolen. If you talk to Amren, he'll ask for your help to retrieve the sword. The main difference we see here is that Whiterun is not afraid to spread its exposition over time. Instead of strong-arming you to the local tavern, shoving a quest board in front of your eyes and speedrunning through its exposition, Skyrim gives each plot hook its own encounter, its own time in the spotlight, so it can present those plot hooks in the most interesting way possible. And that's just for your first trip to Whiterun. But when you return to the city later, you'll find a completely different set of encounters. At the city gates, you'll now hear about the Arleker warriors. At the Holy Gildergreen tree, you'll find the local priestess trying to heal the tree. And this continues throughout the game. Skyrim makes an effort to continuously come up with excuses to bring you back to Whiterun. And it's usually not just to talk to an NPC so they can give you your next quest marker. Often, the quest takes place in Whiterun itself. When you fight your first dragon, it's just outside of Whiterun. When you join the companions, they transform you into a rampaging werewolf and you have to escape the city while everyone becomes hostile. The Thieves Guild has you poisoning a honeymead brewery. The Civil War gets you to either defend Whiterun from a siege or take Whiterun by force, depending on who you side with. And when it's time to finally confront the final boss of the game, you use the defenses on Dragon's Reach Castle to capture and subdue a dragon. Each of these shows you the city in a different light. You don't just grow to love Whiterun because it's a nice town, you grow to love Whiterun because the narrative designers of Skyrim made sure you would experience a lot of fun adventures in and around Whiterun. Odds are, this city is where you'll get your first title of Thane, where you'll discover you're the Dragonborn, where you get your first unpaid intern and where you buy your first house. It's not just a generic fantasy village anymore. It has become the place where you have a lot of fun memories. It has become your generic fantasy village. The purpose of the town within the game is still very much to give players a place to sell their loot and give you some respite between adventures, just like Hommlet. And it also tries to deliver adventure hooks as efficiently as possible, just like Phandalin. But where Phandalin thought that being efficient meant giving players your adventure hooks as quickly as possible, Whiterun thinks that being efficient means presenting each adventure hooks in the most interesting and appealing way possible. That's the real evolution here. You don't speedrun through your world building anymore. And that's why Whiterun is more popular than any other city in Skyrim. Is because while Markarth, for example, is aesthetically a much more original and creative city, the game kind of fails to give you as a player any opportunity to grow attached to it. There's only a couple side quests which take you to Markarth, and usually it's just to talk to an NPC and then you leave. The city doesn't leave a lasting impression because you just don't spend as much time in it. It might sound a bit simple, but this is not just me making stuff up. There's actual science behind it. In psychology, this is called the mere exposure effect, and there's been many studies which have shown that the more times and the longer you show people a thing, the more positively they tend to react to that thing. For example, if you've watched a couple of my videos, maybe you've realized by now that, just like Whiterun, this channel's focus is on quality rather than quantity, and that might just have made you click that big shiny red subscribe button. But if this is the first video of mine you've ever watched, you're probably not gonna bother, which is fine. I'll just get you next time. Now, Skyrim was a good evolution over Phandalin, but this game is almost old enough to play itself at this point. So how have RPG towns evolved since then? Now, we've had a couple of absolutely great cities in the past couple of years, like in Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Spider-Man 2, Lies of P, but all of those are giant cities, and in tabletop RPG terms, we would probably call those urban campaigns, which is a topic I think would need its own separate video. If we want to talk about small fantasy towns which act as a downbeat between adventures, I think a much better modern example to look at would be the House of Hades. While Hades is a roguelike, it's also an extremely emotional journey for both Zagreus, the protagonist, and for the player. And a major contributing factor which gives this game's character is the hub that Zagreus goes back to every time he fails his mission to escape hell. Just like Whiterun, this is a place you will come to know like the back of your hand because of how many times you get to visit it. But those visits could get repetitive very quickly, so Supergiant Games had to master another aspect of good hub design: change. We already saw a hint of this with Whiterun. If you participated in Skyrim's Civil War, for example, you would see rubble cluttering the streets of Whiterun to remind you of the battle where your heroics have decided the fate of the city. Witnessing the town change as a result of your actions and your decisions is a great way to get players engaged, but Skyrim kept it pretty minimal. In Hades, they had to make it so every visit is unique, and to achieve that, they had to use a couple of interesting techniques. The most immediately apparent one is that the house is filled with NPCs who always have fun things to say about whatever Zagreus did last, but the key is that by accomplishing certain goals during your adventures, it's possible for new characters to join the House of Hades, or for the story and relationship with the NPCs you already know to evolve. As a result, there's always something to look forward to when you return, which helps ease the frustration of having your teeth kicked in by Theseus for the 8th time in a row. It's not like Supergiant Games just plopped a couple NPCs into the hub and then wrote 300,000 lines of dialogue for them. Instead, they very specifically set it up so what you do outside the House of Hades would influence what you see inside the House of Hades, and vice versa. So as a GM, when you're preparing your next adventure, make sure you ask yourself this: how can I reflect the different possible outcomes of this adventure in the party's home base? But you can even take it one step further and instead ask yourself, what are interesting adventures I could come up with whose outcomes would lead to interesting changes in the party's home base? For example, let's say your players are in Phandalin. One of the side quests your players could go on is that the Order of the Gauntlet wants them to clear the Netherese watchtower of the zombies that have appeared there. When the players get there, turns out the zombies have been raised by a necromancer. There's no ties to Phandalin or to the Lost Mine that your players are looking for. The only lasting outcome for this encounter is that the party might get some magical loot. So how about, instead of zombies and necromancers, a strange Netherese magical MacGuffin inside the tower has taken over the minds of an entire garrison of soldiers from the Order of the Gauntlet. If the party manages to save them, these soldiers can come back to Phandalin and increase the town's defenses. They might even help the party in their fights against the Red Brand bandits, even if it's just by providing a distraction. Now, the side quest actually ties back into the main plot, but more importantly, it has a long-lasting, visible effect on the village of Phandalin. Whenever they come back to town, your players will now get greeted by some of the soldiers they saved, just because that's who's on guard duty now. It's much more personal than just a pile of magic items. The second technique used to bring change to the House of Hades is going to sound very foreign to my millennial viewers. As it turns out, owning the place where you live can be kind of fun. Zagreus can purchase dozens and dozens of decorations to customize the House of Hades. Some of them can give him new abilities, some of them are purely cosmetic. But there's way more here than Zagreus could afford, even after a couple dozen trips to the House of Hades. This customization is a huge resource sink, but that's a good thing. By having things that are too expensive for the players to buy right now, you create a long-term goal. They will want to come back to town later and purchase the cool-looking fountain. If the adventure is where your players get to make money, the town is where they should get to spend it. This concept is not new to D&D actually. It kind of just phased out of existence with 5th edition. Older editions of the game actually used to have rules for building bastions, hiring staff, etc. And it looks like we might be getting a version of that back in 1D&D. So I guess we've gone full circle and reinvented the wheel. We've taken a 50-year journey through the world of hub design, and we're right back in Hommlet. Except now, hopefully, you have a pretty good understanding of the fundamentals of how to design a good town. And now, you get to make your own Hommlet, or Phandalin, or Whiterun, or House of Hades, or Flying Butterfly City. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Special thanks to my YouTube members, Chungusito, Hot and Spicy Weiss, Scribe Workshop with Sean Farrell, Weiss, Ivan Breitenbach, Blake Richardson, Matt CG, and Michael 3Mod. By being a YouTube member, you get my videos 2 days early, and you get a secret channel on my Discord server. Plus, if you stay as a member for 6 months or more, you will get a $20 discount on my Flairful RPG. If you're still in a world-building mood, here's a link to my video about how to build a good world map, and here's a second video, which YouTube thinks you want to watch. Until next time, have a good one.